Communicating and being able to talk to customers is super important. There's tons of roles out there that you might be in a job right now where you talk to customers directly. Make sure you highlight all the experience you have doing this. How do you talk to customers? How do you make sure that they're happy? What sort of problems do you solve for them, and how do you go about doing it? How do you talk to them? How do you treat them? How do you want them to feel? That's all great sales skills, and if you can prove that you have those communication skills, you'll be much more likely to get hired. What did you put on your resume to show that you can sell?
So I actually used the exact same resume to apply to the SDR roles as I did to apply to other restaurants for cocktail bartending.
Mhm.
Um, my resume may look different than a lot of other people in hospitality just because I do have a lot of competition mixology experience and I've done some major competitions here in the city. So I really wanted to highlight that and focus on my competitive nature in terms of that set of skills. But I was also really lucky in the situation that I had at this former sports pub in that I was a part of the management staff right from the get-go, and I was working on the marketing team. So there are a lot of the marketing skills in there on the resume.
Part 2, getting interviews and setting yourself apart.
The whole goal of applying and having a resume and having LinkedIn is to increase your odds of getting an offer letter. This whole section is going to be tips on how to do exactly that. There are some pretty well-defined transferable skills that you can get experience from in other roles and then transfer them into sales. So I'm going to go through a few of those with you. Relationship building. What sort of relationships do you build either internally or externally at your current job? How do you get people to like you? How do you get people to trust you? And it doesn't have to always be customers. It could be partners that you're talking to. It could be your vendors that you're talking to. It could be your boss. It could be coworkers from a different department or managers from a different department. Any of that stuff is helpful just to show that you are good at building relationships. If your job requires you to do any writing at all, you need to highlight that. Writing emails, specifically in software sales roles and SDR roles, is a huge part of the job. So if you can prove that you write blog posts or have written some sort of short story or really any type of writing, especially if you're writing emails a lot for your current job, put it on display.
By the way, this is part 2 of a 4-part series that I made on getting into software sales without any experience or any degrees. The first part covers helpful LinkedIn tips and job search tips. If you're interested in that, the video is linked down in the description. This video couldn't have been made without the help from my friend Chris. He just got hired as an SDR for the first time. He has no sales experience and no tech experience. Please show him some love by clicking the like button on this video. And if you have some questions for him, I've actually linked his LinkedIn profile in the description down below so you can message him there. And if you're interested in furthering your sales experience even more, I've linked a bunch of good sales books in the description down below. Specifically, there's one called New Sales Simplified. It teaches you how to become a sales hunter and get into the sales mindset. Highly recommend that. That is also linked in the description.
Management is going to be looking for the go-getter type, especially for SDR roles. And there's a reason for that. They don't want to have someone who's just trying to get by. They want someone who's trying to prove themselves. So if that's you, make sure you mention that multiple times. You're a go-getter, you want to earn money, and you are willing to, jump over whatever hurdle it takes. That's the type of person they're trying to hire. Problem solving. This may sound bad, but managers don't want someone to just be constantly asking them questions and not going and doing research themselves. If you can show that you're a problem solver, it actually helps them build some faith that you are going to go research your own things, you're going to come up with your own conclusions, and you're going to chase after things on your own and not ask for permission to do things. It's very helpful, and it takes a lot off their plate.
Especially when you're in a situation where you don't have those skills directly translating over. They're looking for a salesperson, right? So you have to be able to sell them that these skills are going to be able to translate into that role. If you approach it in a timid way, it's not going to reflect that those skills will transition forward.
Inevitably, when you are applying for jobs, you are going to get a lot of rejection emails. I know, it sucks. It doesn't feel good. And the best thing you can do is just know that it's going to happen and that you just need the one yes and not focus on all the no's. That being said, a really good way of setting yourself apart is to email the rejections back and actually ask them what it was that you were missing, or why did they reject your application.
The day after I had my second interview, and both my interviews went really well, so I was pretty confident I was going to get the job. The day after I had that interview, I woke up and I had an email in my inbox saying that I didn't get it.
Whoa.
And I was like, it was like, sorry, we're going to go in a different direction. Good luck with your hunt. And that was it. And I'm sitting there scratching my head. I'm like, what happened? Like, I understand that they have a lot of applicants and maybe there were more people with more experience, but like usually you would get some level of feedback from the person on the other side of, well, you could have done better. And so I sent an email back and I was like, hey, like if you guys have any feedback for me as to how I could interview better or why you made this decision, I would really like to hear it. I would like to, know so that the next time I could do a better job.
Yeah.
The next email I got back was actually from the guy who had done my first interview, my immediate manager. And he basically said, can you give me a call? And then when we got on the phone, he had explained to me that he had been interviewing well over 100 people and that there were 4 guys named Chris.
Oh.
And that it was an HR error on their end, that they had sent out a rejection letter. So the funny thing about that, and I mean, I've been mulling it over, and I don't know if this was like a test or if this was like a genuine error on their end. But I mean, if I would have never followed up, I would still be unemployed.
You never know. They might reconsider you if you're doing that because you're applying for sales roles. And when you're selling, you will get a lot of people saying no, and asking them why and not just accepting the rejection is a big part of selling. That being said, even if they don't reconsider you for the role, they might give you a massive tip as to why you're not getting more interviews and why you're not getting more offer letters. If you have no sales experience or no technology experience, read a book. Just because you haven't worked in the field before doesn't mean that you can't show that you're the real deal and you're genuinely interested in getting into software. So I've linked a couple of really good sales books in the description. One of them is called New Sales Simplified. It's perfect for SDRs, so I highly recommend you go down to the description and check that book out. Just think about what it would be like if you actually land an interview and you can talk about all the things you learned in this book. It shows that you're real and genuine and willing to work, and it also gives you so much more to talk about in the interviews. So again, the link to some sales books in the description of this video.
Yeah, I think that a lot of that confidence really did come from hearing the experience that some of my friends had in the field. It kind of just like, go for it. What's the worst thing that could happen in this situation? And just, throw your hat in the ring. I really just focused on making sure that my cover letter was really strong and that I was really passionate in the way that I described the way that I want to make the transition out of hospitality.